Dear Mr. Scott, I am writing to you about a long string of disrepair matters involving my rented apartment. These matters have been brought to your attention on the phone and in personal visits throughout the past 6 years, and very little has been done to address them. What little that has been done is sorely inadequate. There are two major issues. The first is the gas fire in the bedroom. It has been disconnected for over a year, and it has been out of use for over 2 years due to the fly infestation that involved sealing the entire fireplace, as I pointed out to you on one of the inspections. Like myself, you have a copy of the gas safety inspection which states structural instability within the flue, and that the fire will not be reconnected until the flue is relined. I have never had any indication that you plan on addressing this issue. Meanwhile, I have been forced to spend 2 of the coldest winters on record with no heating, other than a colour gas heater of my own addition to the property. I did not like to complain, as I suspect you are very busy and assumed you would be contacting me at some point for this repair. But winter is now upon us for the 3rd time. The second issue is the non-stop problem I have had with the bathroom. The repairs from the ceiling collapse of 2006 are not good enough. A fresh lick of water-based paint, most of which drained from the walls when the dehumidifiers were on for 3 months to dry out the flat below, were never going to be enough to stop damp and mould. Neither was fixing the ceiling with plasterboard before fixing the outside roof. You will recall that I was present on the meeting that took place with the visit from the insurance woman in the first quarter of 2007, when complete bathroom regeneration was spoken about. 4 years later, the bath is still unusable due to paint on the tub itself, which has been flaking off ever since it was filled with rubble from the ceiling and left in that manner for months, a good 5 years ago. The real horror that I have had to live with, however, was as a direct consequence of drying out the flat beneath. The heat and water evaporating through the wooden floor left spores of fungus blooming all over the walls and on the plastic of the bath sides. These sides are still smashed up from the plumber's attempt to find the stopcock, which could have been avoided had the location been found and transmitted to me when the pipes first froze, as I specifically requested from you. The Harrogate Borough Council Department of Housing Needs has inspected this repair during a recent visit on Monday the 31st of October 2011. They suggested I got in touch with Environmental Health. I made contact with Environmental Health on the following week. They advised me to put in writing my complaints about the disrepair, the measures I require you to now take, and a time frame in which those problems I have made are to be addressed. What I need therefore is a written response from you informing me firstly when the chimney flue will be repaired and my gas fire reconnected, and secondly when the restructuring of my bathroom will take place. It is not good enough to repaint. The walls need to be stripped of paper and paint right back to whatever is below them, particularly on the adjoining wall to next door where the wall tiles are fixed to paper and not to the wall. This needs to happen prior to the redecoration. I strongly suspect the bath will need to be replaced, and I would like for the fake flooring to be removed and the wood underneath, which has never been looked at since the pipe burst about 10 months ago, almost certainly needs treating to stop it from rotting away following water damage. As the winter is setting in, I really feel we must act on this with a sense of urgency. Thus, I should like the work to be carried out within the last 2 months of the year. I recognise that I should have written to you before and demanded this work be addressed, but I am aware that you have full knowledge of everything written above, and I have been hoping that as the letting agent of this flat, my living conditions would be of some concern and some priority for you. This hasn't been the case over the past few years. I have not wanted to be seen as unduly impatient or difficult. I like to think that in this matter I have demonstrated extreme patience over the last 6 years, particularly the last year. I was also largely unaware of my rights as a tenant in terms of complaining to a landlord in an acceptable and professional manner, which would not result in an irrational and unreasonable response which might make my sojourning here even worse. I am no longer prepared to put up with these levels of appalling neglect on your behalf. Failure to cooperate will leave me no choice but to file a complaint with Environmental Health, who have said they will inspect the property and work with you to solve this problem if needs be. So it's I had Mr. Scott and the plumber round this morning, and I found these on my side. These are this is my fruit bowl and that is my eating bowl, and I don't know what the hell that is. It's I'm replying to your letter dated 28th of September 2011, in which you provided feedback from a visit to allow entrance for the fire alarm test. I am quite insulted and confused as to how you could not help but notice aspects like the inside of my oven. I am confused as to how the occurrence could happen by accident during a fire alarm test. I am insulted because what you saw was the remainder of an industrial cleaner I had used the day before, as I do at the end of every month. It requires a certain period in which it is left alone to bring up the dirt and residue before being washed away. I would have removed it prior to your visit had I known you might have had as yet an unmentioned reason for looking. In regards to the lounge carpet, you will be no doubt pleased to know that what you mistaken for chewing gum was nothing more than tack from the walls. Sadly, the cleaner required for this cost a lot of money, and I have not had enough spare to reinvest at this time. However, it has since been removed. I was waiting for you to get in contact, as stated, for a full house inspection, as I believe we have rather a lot to discuss, and I shall like to put your mind at rest by supplying you with cleaning water and the lights which I have been following, so that you can rest assured when issues like this, like those you raised, occur, they shall be attended to in a prompt and timely fashion.
Prepared opening statement for the Great Granville Inquisition. I, David Stuart Duff III, would like to welcome you to my humble home of Flat 2, 10 Granville Road, on this Monday the 14th day of the month of November, in the year of our Lord 2011. I have rented this apartment since the 22nd day of the month of February, in the year of our Lord 2006, at an agreed sum of £395 sterling per calendar month, on a rolling 6-monthly short-hold tenancy contract. Though I have financial guarantors, let it be known I have never once, in almost 6 complete years, which amounts to 12 consecutive contract cycles, ever once been in arrears with my rent. Despite the state of disrepair and its length of duration, similarly, I have never been offered a reduction in rent. I would like to introduce Mr. Terry C. R. Scott, the Director of Scott's Property Services of Burnt Yates, Harrogate, who acts as the letting agent of Mr. Smith, the landlord, and who today represents him in his full capacity, at whose behest this meeting has been arranged, following my initial letter of complaint. I would further like to introduce to these proceedings Ms. Bev Watson, ASDA colleague and section leader for the Department of Counters at Harrogate ASDA, who has a long history over many years of being an official witness in institutional civil law procedures as representative of the Workers' Union. She is here under advice from the Environmental Health Officer at Harrogate Borough Council Department of Private Sector Renewal. She will be taking notes throughout the proceeding and at any time may talk to myself, but otherwise she'll keep silent. I would like to make explicitly clear that this meeting is to progress no longer in duration than 60 minutes from the close of this statement. As such, I shall move the discussion along where required, so the entire agenda is discussed, even if no resolutions get sanctioned. In this event, said agenda item will be deemed a failure. That following the closure of this meeting, I shall follow up with a second prepared statement that will indicate the end of proceedings, and that notes from this meeting will be written up into a formal letter and sent in writing by post, whereby a failure to respond in writing within a week, confirming the agreed points, and where required giving permission or refusing permission, will result in a formal complaint being lodged, at which point the Environmental Health Officers shall conduct their own disrepair inspection and work with the agent and landlord to ensure the points agreed are acted upon. In a similar capacity, failure to reach appropriate resolutions to the points raised will result in the same action being taken. I need not remind those here present of how serious the nature of such a course of action will be. I have it on reasonably good authority that this eventuality, were it to occur, would not be the first time in regards to this letting agent. During the procedure, I cannot accept unsubstantiated claims without documented written evidence supporting the claims, which can be scanned into my computer during the course of this meeting. I can, however, note where failure to produce documentation that is claimed exists occurs, and that this is the case, and in the event of environmental health requiring documentation, permission has been granted for their review of such documents. I now declare the agenda for the discussion based on the 2 letters distributed on the 5th day of the month of November in the year of our Lord 2011. They include recommendations on repair to the bathroom chimney flue, gas fire and reconnection. Recommendation on the repair of the bathroom following the ceiling collapse of the 22nd day of the month of July in the year of our Lord 2006, and the flood and ramifications of the same over the Christmas of the year of our Lord 2010. Discussion on the inadequate repair job during the month of November in the year of our Lord 2006. Discussion on the ways in which the flood over the Christmas of the year of our Lord 2010 could have been avoided. Any further comments within reason the letting agent would like to discuss based on the original letter. In regards to the second letter, recommendations concerning the unannounced intention to inspect the property, in cases of accompaniment of staff for yearly monitoring processes required by law. Discussion on the state in which the flat should be maintained, disregarding structural repairs and disrepair. The final point concerning the plumber and my utensils this very week. Any further comments within reason the letting agent would like to discuss based on the original letter. I now motion to begin this proceeding as stated above. The time is on this, the 14th day of the month of November in the year of our Lord 2011. Prepared closing statement for the Great Granville Inquisition in the event of a positive outcome. I, David Stewart Duff III, now call a halt to these proceedings. I should like to thank those present here for what I feel was, for the most part, a strong and well-reasoned discussion with good outcomes that can now be solidified in writing and worked upon. Our intention will now be to write up from the notes taken by the independent witness the meeting, its main points and its main resolutions. These shall be distributed by post at the first convenience. I shall expect a reply in writing, supporting with permission granted or denying with permission forbidden, within a week of the distribution, in order to proceed. I would remind those here present that whilst that will avoid the formal lodging of a complaint with environmental help, I shall be keeping the aforementioned fully abreast of the situation at every step of the way. If the progress like today does not manifest itself first in writing and then in action, I shall have no hesitation in returning to environmental health. Copies of these opening and closing statements will also be forwarded by post for your reference in future. As mentioned during the discussion, I will have no hesitation in bringing to light any punitive measures I feel may be afoot as a result of bringing this complaint to light. To the several national housing ombudsmen, it is my hope that this will not be necessary. I, David Stewart Duff III, now declare this meeting over.